पश्चात देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवशरी गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद जय अद्वैत गदाधर शिवशरी गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिकुचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिकुचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत स्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। मायापुर नदी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा मई जमुना मई की जय। तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। समवेत भक्त की जय। All glories assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All Vishnu and Gaurang.
Welcome everybody to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, and today we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam 4.22.12. And His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami has a lot of travels now, so we hope that he'll join us, but we're not sure. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Also, Mahesh Pandit, if you could take hosting at 7:20, I need to leave at that
Sure,
time.
yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, I'll begin with text 12. Svagatam Vodvija Shrestha Yad Ratani Mumuksava Charanti Shadaya Dira Bala Eva Brahanti Cha. Translation. Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to the four Kumaras, addressing them as the best of the Brahmanas. He welcomed them, saying, "From the beginning of your birth, you strictly observed the vows of celibacy, and although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourselves just like small children." Purport. The specific importance of the Kumaras is that they were brahmacharis, living the life of celibacy from birth. They kept themselves as small children, about 4 or 5 years old, because by growing into youth, one's senses sometimes become disturbed, and celibacy becomes difficult. The Kumaras therefore purposefully remain children, because in a child's life, the senses are never disturbed by sex. This is the significance of the life of the Kumaras, and as such Maharaj Prithu addressed them as the best of the Brahmanas. Not only were the Kumaras born of the best Brahmana, Lord Brahma, but they are addressed herein as Vijra Shrestha, the best of the Brahmanas, on account of their being Vaishnavas also. As we have already explained, they have their Sampradaya, disciplic succession, and even to date the Sampradaya is being maintained and is known as the Nimbarka Sampradaya. Out of the 4 Sampradayas of the Vaishnava Acharyas, the Nimbarka Sampradaya is one. Maharaj Prithu specifically appreciated the position of the Kumaras because they maintained the brahmachari vow from the very beginning of their birth. Maharaj Prithu, however, expressed his great appreciation of Vaishnavism by addressing the Kumaras as Vaishnava Shrestha. In other words, everyone should offer respect to a Vaishnava without considering his source of birth. Vaishnava Jati Buddhi. No one should consider a Vaishnava in terms of birth. The Vaishnava is always the best of the Brahmanas, and as such, one should offer all respects to a Vaishnava, not only as a Brahmana, but as the best of the Brahmanas. Would anybody like to comment here? I don't have any comments.
Yeah, in this verse, this is straightforward actually. Maharaj Prithu offered his welcome to 4 Kumaras, and he considered them as a best of the Vaishnava. Also, they are head of the Nimbark Sampradaya, and everybody should offer respect to the Vaishnava, not considering where they come from or where they were born or anything else. They are Vaishnava because they serve Vishnu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
With the 6th verse of Nectar of Instruction, it says, "A pure devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. List out, you should overlook having a body born in the family, the dye complexion, so on and so forth. And he compares them to the Buddha, which even is full of like bubble food and light. It's not polluted."
We cannot hear you very good because of your.
Oh, sorry. Well, I'll fix one sec. That's not bad.
Okay, go ahead. We cannot hear you anymore.
Oh, how about now?
Hey, that's good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I was thinking of the 6th verse of Nectar of Instruction. It says, a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Should overlook as having a body born in a low family, bad complexion, deformed, or diseased. and it compares him to the Ganga, which even when it's full of bubbles, foam, mud, it's not polluted. I was thinking about, this verse like really nice. You shouldn't consider them by their birth, and pretty much should always respect them, and how mundane vision can lead to an offense. Thinking about Jayadvaita Maharaj saying, your progress in Krishna consciousness is never checked, but if you make offenses to a Vaishnava, then it can destroy your bhakti. It's like, wow. So this little statement at the bottom of this purport is super heavy, for me at least.
Yes, yes. All right, thank you for your input. Maybe you can go ahead for the next verse, text 13. Shyama Sindhu Prabhu. Okay, hold on.
Pachinna kushalam nata indriyarthartha vedinam yasana papa etasmin patitanam swakarmabhihi. Prithu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? Maharaj Prithu did not ask the Kumaras about their good fortune, for the Kumaras are always auspicious by dint of their life in celibacy. Since they are always engaged on the path of liberation, there was no question of ill fortune. In other words, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas who are strictly following the path of spiritual advancement are always fortunate. The question was asked by Prithu Maharaj for his own sake, since he was in the position of a grihasta and in charge of the royal authority. Kings are not only grihastas who are generally absorbed in sense gratification, but are sometimes employed to kill animals in hunting because they have to practice the killing art. Otherwise, it is very difficult for them to fight their enemies. Such things are not auspicious. 4 kinds of sinful activities, associating with women for illicit sex, eating meat, intoxication, and gambling, are allowed for the Kshatriyas. For political reasons, sometimes they have to take to these sinful activities. Kshatriyas do not refrain from gambling. One vivid example is the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were challenged by the opposite party, Duryodhana, to gamble and risk their kingdom, they could not refrain, and by that gambling they lost their kingdom and their wife was insulted. Similarly, the Kshatriyas cannot refrain from fighting if challenged by the opposite party. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj, taking consideration of all these facts, inquired whether there is any auspicious path. Grihastha life is inauspicious because Grihastha means consciousness for sense gratification, and as soon as there is sense gratification, one's position is always full of dangers. This material world is said to be padam padam yad vipadam na tesham, dangerous in every step. Everyone in this material world is struggling hard for sense gratification. Clearing all these points, Maharaj Prithu inquired from the 4 Kumaras about the fallen conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world due to their past bad or inauspicious activities. Is there any possibility for their auspicious spiritual life? In this verse, the word indriyarthartha vedinam is very significant. It indicates persons whose only aim is to satisfy the senses. They are also described as patitanam, or fallen. Only one who stops all activities for sense gratification is considered to be elevated. Another significant word is swakarmabhi. One becomes fallen by dint of his own past activities. Everyone is responsible for his fallen condition because of his own activities. When activities are changed to devotional service, one's auspicious life begins. I guess I'm curious what others could speak on the point of how is it the Kshatriyas, even though they have access to all of these different inauspicious activities, I mean, the 4 regulative principles they can engage in, yet so many of these kings, in Bhagavatam at least, which I suppose might be the exception to the rule, are able to step away from it almost like it seems effortlessly, whereas any engagement in sense gratification for us, at least for folks that I see in this city, in this world, my experience is so binding that they can't get out of it except by some extreme distress or some serious good fortune.
Yeah, only thing in talking about in this age, Kali Yuga, these things are actually forbidden, and you can see that in previous days, kings were saintly kings, and now we don't have any saintly king, or Kali Yuga is there. So many inauspicious things happening. So all we can do is chant Hare Krishna and be happy, I guess. All right. Let's go next verse.
We have a hand from Saraswati Mastery.
Pranams to all. And I was just thinking further about Shama Sindhu Prabhuji's question about how these Kshatriyas, even though they, due to, the station that they're in life, have to indulge in these forbidden acts. But don't forget that these Kshatriyas following the Vedic culture, they also knew when to retire from these so-called activities, and then they did adopt the Vanaprastha, where they engaged completely in spiritual life and spiritual realization. So the fire of their bhakti and austerities, everything, in order for them to become liberated from the material life, they pursued that path. And I read somewhere that, the seeds of sinful acts or seeds of material desires that lead to sinful acts, when they become completely inundated with love for Krishna, and when you follow the path of bhakti, those seeds just are rendered completely inactive. So whatever entanglements that these Kshatriyas may have found themselves in, which generates future karma, all of that is burnt up. Your past, present, and future karma is completely burned up in this fire of devotional service. So that could be one thought. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Okay. Praveen Prabhu said, Arjun refused Uroshi. I do not think these pure devotees even indulge in these 4 sinful acts. Yes, true. One should not indulge in these 4 sinful acts. Even though Arjun had a privilege to indulge in that, but he did not. Actually, he considered her as her mother, if you remember in Mahabharata. Anyway, so yeah, one should not indulge. Okay. I would invite Saraswati Mataji for...
I see that Madhupati Prabhuji is there. Would he like to take the next verse?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yes, Madhupati Prabhu.
Okay.
Please.
1 minute.
Number 14. Yeah.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Gurudas Jayadvaita Swami Tinamine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasadeshakarine. Bhavatsu Kusala Prashna Atma Rameshu Neshyate Kushala Kushala Yatra Nasan Santi Mati Vrittaya. Itu Maharaj continued. My dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. Sorry. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila, 4th chapter, 176 verse, it is said, Advaita Bhadra Abhadra Jnana Sabha Mano Dharma E Bala E Manda E Sabha Brahma. In this material world, the auspicious and inauspicious are simply mental concoctions because such things exist only due to association with the material world. This is called illusion or Atma Maya. We think ourselves created by material nature exactly as we think ourselves experiencing so many things in a dream. The spirit soul, however, is always transcendental. There is no question of becoming materially covered. This covering is simply something like a hallucination or a dream. In Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 62nd verse, it is also said, Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha. Simply by association, we create artificial material necessities. Dhyato Vishya Pumsa Sangateshu Upajayate. When we forget our real constitutional position and wish to enjoy the material resources, our material desires manifest. And we associate with varieties of material enjoyment. As soon as the concoctions of material enjoyment are there, because of our association, we create a sort of lust or eagerness to enjoy them, and when that false enjoyment does not actually make us happy, we create another illusion known as anger. And by the manifestation of anger, the illusion becomes stronger. When we are illusioned in this way, forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna follows. And by thus losing Krishna consciousness, our real intelligence is defeated. In this way, we become entangled in this material world. In Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 63rd verse, it is said, Krodhat bhavati samoha samoha smriti vibrama smriti bhramshat buddhi naso buddhi nasat pranashyati. By material association, we lose our spiritual consciousness. Consequently, there is a question of the auspicious and inauspicious. But those who are Atmaram or self-realized have transcended such questions. The Atmarams or self-realized persons, gradually making further progress in spiritual bliss, come to the platform of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the perfection of life. In the beginning, the Kumaras were self-realized impersonalists, but gradually they became attracted to the personal pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that for those who are always engaged in the devotional service of the personality of Godhead, the duality of the auspicious and inauspicious does not arise. Pitu Maharaj is therefore asking about auspiciousness not for the sake of the Kumaras, but for his own sake. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So, Pitu Maharaj, while addressing the four Kumaras, is not inquiring about their auspiciousness because the duality of good and bad fortune, they're not affected by that because they're always absorbed in spiritual bliss. But he's inquiring more about himself, at how grahastha life, the king, he can get auspiciousness. Right. So Prabhupada nicely in the purport mentions about quoting Chaitanya Charitamrita, that in this material world, the auspicious and inauspicious are simply mental concoctions, because such things exist only due to association with the material world. And how do we associate with the material world? The 62nd and 63rd verses, which Srila Prabhupada quoted from the second chapter, Dhayato Vishapumsam. One initially becomes attached, or the senses becomes attached to the sense objects. Then the desire arises to enjoy those sense objects. That gives rise to lust, and lust is never fulfilled. As a result, it gets converted into another illusion, anger. And that anger, krodhat bhavati samo smriti vibrama buddhi nasat panashyati. Right. Where that anger further leads one to delusion, and ultimately one falls down into this material world, forgetting his real position to be the servant of the Supreme Lord. But that person who is always serving the Supreme Lord, like the four Kumaras, who is always, they have transcended the three modes of material nature, they are always serving the Supreme Lord. To that person, this auspiciousness or its inauspiciousness does not affect. But those who are bewildered by these three modes of material nature, they go to this auspiciousness and inauspiciousness duality, or good or bad fortune duality. Yeah, that's all I had. Guru Maharaj, I think, has joined. We can have Guru Maharaj, would you like to comment on this?
Well, we can read the short purport by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vastate Deshatari. His commentary: one should ask how the guest is feeling. No, that's not necessary for them. Since one must ask about the welfare of guests, and since it's improper to ask about your welfare, the welfare of the Kumars, I'll ask about my own welfare. That's the commentary. No need to ask about your welfare, but since such a question should be asked, what about my welfare? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Praveen Prabhu also writes in Kali Yuga, or Madhupati writes, in Kali Yuga, everyone is born a Sudra, so there is no Kshatriya. Okay. I would like to invite, let's see, what happened to her? Let's see. Oh, Saraswati Mata, please.
Pranams Param Pujya Gurudev. We're at text 15. Tad aham krita vishrambaha shurdovas tapasvinam samprache patva itasmin kshma kananjasa bhavat. Translation: I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are blazing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how, in this material world, we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. Purport: when saintly persons go from door to door to see those who are too much materially engaged, it is to be understood that they do not go to ask anything for their personal benefit. It is a fact that saintly persons go to materialists just to give real information of the auspicious. Maharaj Prithu was assured of this fact. Therefore, instead of wasting time by asking the Kumaras about their welfare, he preferred to inquire from them whether he could soon be relieved from the dangerous position of materialistic existence. This was not, however, a question personally for Prithu Maharaj. It was raised to teach the common man that whenever one meets a great saintly person, one should immediately surrender unto him and inquire about relief from the material pains of existence. Therefore, Srila Narottama Das Thakur says, Samsara Vishanal Divanishi Hiya Jwala Judete Na Kainu Upaye. We are always suffering from material pangs and our hearts are burning, but we cannot find any way out of it. The materialistic person can also be called a tapasvi, which means someone who is always suffering from material pain. One can get rid of all these material pains only when he takes shelter of the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This is also explained by Narottama Das Thakur. Golokara premadana harinam sankirtana ratina janmila kenetaya. Narottama Das Thakur regretted that he did not pursue his attraction for the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. The conclusion is that all persons in this material world are suffering from material pains, and if one wants to get rid of them, he must associate with saintly persons, pure devotees of the Lord, and chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That is the only auspicious way for materialistic persons. Om Gyanantimirindasya Gyananjana Shalikaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. We know that Prithu Maharaj is asking all these very important questions for the benefit of all fallen souls. It's not that the answers to these questions are unknown to him. We already have been told that just like the Kumaras, he also is a Mahabhagavata devotee. But we can understand that the reason he is asking these questions is to set an ideal example of the sort of questions and inquiries one needs to make whenever we have the great fortune of hearing from great saintly people. We shouldn't waste our time by asking them ways and means of becoming further entangled in a materialistic way of life. That is not the sort of questioning that needs to be addressed to great saintly people. Rather, all the questions should be geared towards finding out how we can get out of this materialistic suffering, materialistic way of life, which has bound us to this material illusion and sphere for so many lifetimes. Well, when I read the translation, it automatically brought to mind our Mangala Arti opening lines, Samsara Davana Lalita Loka Tranaya Karunya Ganaganatvam. How only with the spiritual master's mercy can one extinguish the blazing fire of materialistic existence. Just as clouds pour forth water that can extinguish a forest fire. There is no other remedy for fallen souls but to be saved from this suffering, which is exactly like being burned alive from fires of the material existence. You could almost say fires of hell. One needs to take immediate shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. It's not that saintly people rest on their laurels, having achieved the highest position, namely becoming firmly fixed in devotional service. They're not going to rest because they've attained the final goal of all life, but rather they are very concerned and unhappy to see all other parts and parcels of Krishna just withering and rotting in the material world. No one can be more of a well-wisher than great saintly people who take all kinds of trouble just to try and give Krishna consciousness to the fallen souls. They sometimes, well, not sometimes, I rather see how, for me as a fallen soul, how I've become so desensitized to all this suffering, unpredictability, and being so governed by the modes of material nature that it's just become a so-called normal way of life, just to be controlled by these modes of material nature. It's really hard for someone stuck in this rut to even understand how to try and remove these contaminations, these controls, these these enemies, lust, anger, greed, envy, that have taken up strategic positions through the mind, having converted our original Krishna consciousness into this way of life where it's just so polluted. And I was listening to something Srila Prabhupada was quoting, a Bengali proverb. He said, Krishna bhuliya jiva bhoga vancha kare, paste maya tare japatya, slapped. They're being slapped around endlessly. And the fallen souls, they just can't come to realize that all this suffering, slapping around, and whenever there's a slight interruption between one slap and another, which they automatically construe as happiness, it's all so meaningless and pointless that the suffering is taking place when there actually is a remedy. And in the purport it said that a materialistic person undergoing all these kinds of suffering and tribulations, they can also be called a tapasvi, in the same way that you could say these yogis adopt an austere way of life to try and gain something higher, because the materialistic person is willingly okay to take these kinds of suffering and austerity. And when they talked about how Narottama Das Thakur, one of the great acharyas in our parampara, how he regretted that he did not pursue his attraction for the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. It's one of the 6 kinds of prayers that Narottama Das Thakur has sung, and one type of a prayer is this acute regret and remorse of having committed this great betrayal, of ever having forgotten Krishna. I don't know how much more of a betrayal one can actually commit when one has decided, or not decided, but yes, adopted a separatist mentality of wanting something other than Krishna and his loving service. So here, that's one kind of a prayer when one understands and is filled with regret and remorse. It's purifying, but of course, as Gurudev Maharaj has pointed out numerous times, it's not enough just to feel guilt and remorse and then just sort of wallow in these feelings that are more or less under the modes of ignorance, even that sort of wallowing in self-pity. It's more important that one quickly takes the shelter of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and adopt all the instructions that they have given into one's lifetime, into one's life, so that in one lifetime one can actually get out of this material entanglement and become situated in engaging in rendering pure devotional service to Krishna. And as Srila Prabhupada has mentioned, one of the easiest method is to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And as Gurudev has given us so much reassurance that just keep practicing. If yes, you can't chant it without any nama aparadh. All right, we know we can't do it right now, but never give up. Keep on trying and keep on trying. Or as my mother used to say, try harder. Whenever I would say, oh, this is so hard, this is so hard, her immediate reply would be, how about you try harder? Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
In present day, when we meet a saintly person, our most pressing question is, can I take your photo?
Oh.
And that's it.
Very true, Maharaj. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
So Madhupati writes, Prithu Maharaj set up a good example of questions to be asked from saintly persons. In our interaction with saintly person, how do we practically apply? This is question for you, Maharaj.
Yes, same thing, that we should recognize that we are stuck in material life. Whether I'm a householder, whoever I am, I'm not free from clutches of material existence. And so it's relevant to ask, why am I suffering? Or what can I do? How do I advance in Krishna consciousness? Either if I know that it's Krishna consciousness, then how do I advance in Krishna consciousness? And if I don't know, then what should I do? Those who are a little advanced, they know I have to follow this Krishna consciousness. So how can I improve? What can I do? And those who don't know, they haven't, what path should I go on?
Go ahead, Saraswati Mata.
Gurudev, you know how Srila Prabhupada had mentioned how when he had first met his own Gurudev and the instructions that were given to him, it wasn't that he was immediately able to execute what was asked of him. So I'm wondering if a disciple finds themselves in such a situation where an instruction has been given, but for whatever reason, and I'm not saying just mere excuses being put forth, but for whatever reason, if they find they can't immediately execute that, what can the disciple do to not always be a disappointment to their Gurudev?
Prabhupada said I was always keeping that instruction with me. He didn't forget it. He didn't say, well, I can't really do this, so let's just get on with life. He was always thinking that. Guru Maharaj has said this, so what to do, how to do it.
Thank you. I would like.
That's, well, I'm thinking of it, one of the 10 aparads is to the Guru of Bhavagya, to ignore the instructions of the spiritual master. To be, what's the word? Not to be able to fulfill is regrettable, but just to drop the instructions, to forget them and say, well, I can't do that, that's more regrettable. But if I can't do it now, well, still I have to do it and keep that instruction with me.
Murari Gupta writes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, it is ever inappropriate to ask an advanced devotee about their physical health, since it's body related.
Is it ever inappropriate? Well, we'd have to think about circumstances, but as a general rule, that's normal. When there's kushal prashna, and when we're asking about another's welfare, then naturally we ask, how is your health? How is your family? Prabhupada said, according to the person's position in varnashram. So, like you meet a saintly person, you don't ask, how's your business? But when you meet a Vaishya, how's your business going? When you meet a Kshatriya, are all the citizens happy? When you meet a Brahmin, is your mind peaceful? Is your bhajan going on nicely? But so there are different questions to ask of different people. And naturally we ask, how is your health? That's a very normal question. In the West also, we ask, how are you? So it's not that we're really looking for a full health report, but in one sense, it's a polite question. How are you doing? Okay. And in another sense, we may genuinely be concerned, how is your health? Because health is such a central issue, especially for older people. Although anyway, in old age, it's like, we won't even talk about it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Pravin Prabhu writes, when Prabhupada arrived, we all sat down in his room and he led a short kirtan. He was radiant, beaming, and smiled at us all. Then he said, so Giriraj, how is your writing going? I was flustered, taken by surprise. Well, Srila Prabhupada, I replied, I haven't done any writing. Oh, you haven't done any writing? He asked, why not? I asked, I didn't know what to say. All right, he said, we will speak later. After we had all left the room, I went back in. So you are not writing, Prabhupada asked. I explained what had happened and said I consider that you wanted to work cooperatively, and I thought that Shyam Sundar said made sense. So I agreed to do what he asked. Did I do that right thing? And then this goes on here. What is he writing all the book here? Pravin Prabhu, you want to say something about this? You can write all this thing.
Well, you might as well finish reading.
Okay. Yes, that is all right. Prabhupada said, one may temporarily suspend the order of the spiritual master, but one should never neglect it. Just like my Guru Maharaj gave me the order to write, but I am so busy traveling and preaching in India, now I have no time to write. But I'm always thinking of his order. And when the opportunity arises, I will take it up. Prabhupada was so understanding and practical. And he had confirmed that I had done the right thing. I felt revealed and satisfied. Okay.
So the point is clear, I think.
Yes. And next time, don't write all this stuff. Just if you want to write, say it by yourself. Okay, that Saraswati Mata says, some people treat the Guru as some trophy Guru to inflate their own self-importance. How would a saintly person deal with this?
Well, different saintly persons may deal with it differently. Some may simply tolerate it and observe it perhaps with amusement or with pity or with disdain, but just not say anything. Some might, under some circumstance, rebuke the person or find some gentle way to point out the person's shortcoming. It depends. Saintly people are different. Every saintly person is a person.
Thank you, Maharaj. Okay, so I would like to have Venkatesh Prabhu. We have 5 minutes. Next one, number 16.
Hare Krishna.
It's a rather long purport. So,
Yeah, I think I can read it quickly.
okay.
व्यक्तम् आत्मवताम् आत्मा भगवान् आत्मभावना स्वानाम् अनुग्रहात् इमां सिद्धरूपी चरति अजा. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities who are his parts and parcels, and for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. Purport: there are different kinds of transcendentalists, namely the jnanis or impersonalists, the mystic yogis, and of course all the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were both yogis and jnanis and finally bhaktas later on. In the beginning, they were impersonalists, but later they developed devotional activities. Therefore, they are best of the transcendentalists. The devotees are representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to elevate their conditioned souls to their original consciousness, they travel all over the universes to enlighten the conditioned souls about Krishna consciousness. The best devotees are Atmavat, or those who have fully realized the Supreme Soul. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Paramatma, is sitting within everyone's heart, trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he is called Atma Bhavana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always trying to give the individual soul the intelligence to understand about himself. He is always with the individual, as a friend sitting by the side of a friend, and he gives facilities to all living entities according to their desires. The word Atmavat Tham is significant in this verse. There are three kinds of devotees, namely Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The neophyte, the preacher, and the Mahabhagavata, or the highly advanced devotee. The highly advanced devotee is one who knows the conclusion of the Vedas in full knowledge. Thus, he becomes a devotee. Indeed, not only is he convinced himself, but he can convince others on the strength of Vedic evidence. The advanced devotee can also see all other living entities as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord without discrimination. The Madhyamadhikari preacher is also well versed in the Shastras and convinces others also, but he discriminates between the favorable and the unfavorable. In other words, the Madhyamadhikari does not care for the demonic living entities, and the neophyte Kanishthadhikari does not know much about the Shastra, but has full faith in Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kumaras, however, were Mahabhagavatans because after scrutinizingly studying the absolute truth, they became devotees. In other words, they were in full knowledge of the Vedic conclusion. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by the Lord that there are many devotees, but a devotee who is fully conversant in the Vedic conclusion is very dear to him. Everyone is trying to elevate himself to the highest position according to his mentality. The karmis who have a bodily concept of life try to enjoy sense gratification to the utmost. Jnani's idea of the highest position is merging into the fullness of God. But devotee's highest position is reaching all over the world the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the devotees are actually the representatives of the Supreme Lord, and as such they travel all over the world directly as Narayana because they carry Narayana within the heart and preach his glories. The representatives of Narayana are as good as Narayana, but he does not conclude, like the Mayavadis, that he has become Narayana. Generally, a sannyasi is addressed as Narayana by the Mayavadis. Their idea is that simply by taking sannyas, one becomes equal to Narayana or Narayana himself. The Vaishnava conclusion is different, as stated by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. साक्षादरित्वेन समस्त शास्त्रयुक्तस् तथा भव्यक्तैव सन्धि किन्तु प्रभोर्य क्रियैव तस्य वन्दे गुरु श्रीशरणानन्दं. According to Vaishnava philosophy, devotee is as good as Narayana, not by becoming Narayana, but by becoming the confidential servant of Narayana. Such great personalities act as spiritual masters for the benefit of people in general, and as such, a spiritual master who is preaching the glories of Narayana should be accepted as Narayana and given all respects due him. So here initially Prabhupada tells who is the greatest transcendentalist, as stated in the last verse of Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, Yoginamapi Sarvesham Badbhatantaratmana Shandavan Bhajate Homa Samayuktatamamata. The devotee is the highest yogi or transcendentalist. Also, Prabhupada says that Paramatma is within the heart and is trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness from within also. So he is sitting within oneself as a friend. So he is giving all facilities to us according to our desires. And three levels of devotees are mentioned here: Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama, and what are their qualities. So the Kanishta Adhikari, he does not know much scriptures. Madhyama Adhikari is a preacher, and he knows the Shastras, but also he can convince others, but he discriminates between the favorable and unfavorable and avoids the unfavorable, as stated in the Directive of Instruction. So further, the Bhagavata devotees, they can very firmly convince others also. Everyone, they do not discriminate. So further, it's about why their devotees are sometimes compared to Narayana, because they are representatives of Narayana, as stated by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in his Guru Ashtaka, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra, Uktastata Bhavyateva Sandhi. So, Sakshat Dhari, he is equivalent to Hari because he is a servant of Hari, he is a confidential servant of Narayan. So, therefore, we accept him as Narayan. Not that he has become equal to Narayana like the way Mayavadis think. So now we can hear from Maharaj. Maharaj, we would like to hear from you.
Thumbs up.
Thank you, Maharaj. So maybe you can lead Kirtan, Venkatesh Prabhu.
Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Vimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nirani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Narade Nirvishesha Shuddhyavani Ashatya Vishataya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhatta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Vishwal Sambhu Hare Hare Ashtadasha Shri Shri Vedya Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada की जय नंदकोटि वैष्णव की जय नमाचार्य श्री हरिदास की जय प्रेम से गौर श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत श्रीवास की जय श्री राधा कृष्ण प्रभु की जय Srinath Pradhan ki jai, Sudeep Mai Pradhan ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Yadavai Yamravai ki jai, Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveta Swami ki jai, all blessings and devotees, all blessings and devotees, all blessings and devotees, God Premanande, Haribol.
Thank you, Venkatesh Prabhu, for your nice kirtan. And thank you, Maharaj, for your association. His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj ki.
Yeah,
Prabhupada ki jai.
yeah,
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
yeah.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Thank
Jai.
you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
So, Maharaj, where are you right now, nowadays?
I'm in Cape Town, South Africa.
Oh,
This morning I'm going to Johannesburg.
okay.
We'll have Soweto Rath Yatra after a few days.
Oh, okay. What time is that right now?
It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God. Thank you for joining, Maharaj. So nice of
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody. Say hello to Maharaj, everybody.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol. Krishna.
Hare Bol. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Bol.